So, what kind of kingdoms are we into? Hey everybody, it's Old Chaplain V, back for our last look at step number 7. We humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Well, we've learned a little bit about shortcomings, but we also learned a little bit about the kingdoms of this world, because Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world. And we've identified a few of those. We started off with, remember, the Chiefs' kingdom in the NFL world, and the fans that are, dedicated and, just passionately part of the fandom, the kingdom of the Chiefs. And then how about the Swifties that were part of that kingdom too? But we also realize that there's the kingdom of politics, and there's the kingdom of wealth, and more than just sports and athletic events, lifestyles that we have. And some people, their kingdom is their smarts, how smart they are, and how successful they are, and how much money they have, and where they live, and who they are. That's there's a lot of kingdoms out there. And of course that helps us realize Scripture then kind of grounds that to realize that the worldly king, first comes the natural, then comes the spiritual. And so our natural world, we're seduced by, the comfort zone that we always try to build up, to make ourselves special. That's because of the dopamine drug in us, the pleasure drug that we're really of the world. And the kingdoms identify that. And so as we open our hearts, and we seek the truth, humble ourselves. When we humble ourselves and seek the truth, we begin to realize that, there's more to life than just these short-term pleasures. We're all going to die. Why are we here? So my kingdom is not of this world, it makes a lot more sense. And grace happens. We awake spiritually, and God touches our heart. When we humble ourselves, a humble heart will not be spurned, I think it says in Scripture. And we become broken bread and poured out wine. We can't feed others unless we break the bread open, as the Scripture would say. So step number 7 is a very powerful step. But it addresses the shortcomings of pride and ego and, anger and all those things of our human nature. Once again, first comes the natural, then comes the spiritual. So our shortcomings aren't bad. They're guideposts, so to speak. They're alarms that go off in us that help us realize, hey, we're in the wrong kingdom. Well, God bless you, everybody. Thank you for watching. So we'll be back again with step number 8 next week. So